Am I the butthole for telling my mom I resent her holding me back because of my sister? I, female 17, was one of those gifted kids when I was younger. I taught myself how to read when I was 2.5 and how to add when I was 3, and by the time I went to kindergarten I was reading chapter books and doing second grade math. My sister, 18, has ADHD and dyslexia and was always a little behind in reading and math. Now to the story. My district makes us do placement tests whenever we start kindergarten, and right before the school year started, the principal and my kindergarten teacher called my parents into a meeting. They basically said I was very advanced for my age and wanted me to skip kindergarten and go to first grade. My mom refused because she thought my sister's feelings would be hurt because I skipped a grade and she didn't. They said okay and suggested I be put in the gifted program and go to a different elementary school in the district, like 2 miles away, that has advanced classes and extra support for gifted kids. She rejected that too because she also thought it would hurt my sister's feelings. They also suggested a private elementary school 10 minutes away for gifted kids. She said no for the same reason as before. They told my mom that they wouldn't be able to give me much support if I'm at a regular kindergarten class at their school, and she said okay. My dad wanted me to go to the private school and argued with my mom about it for weeks. He eventually gave up when she threatened to divorce him for not considering my older sister. Fast forward to 8th grade, I'm still very advanced and my dad comes home from work with pamphlets for this special high school for gifted kids. My mom shut it down immediately. They argued more and he gave in again when the threat of divorce came up again. Now, my parents actually are getting divorced and I chose to live with my dad full time. My mom got mad and asked what she did to have me leave her too, and I gave a whole list of reasons, mostly her favoring my sister, and ended it with her holding me back in school to protect my sister's feelings. She argued that she did what was best for both of us and I'm a butthole for holding that against her because now I have great friends at my school. I left and went to pack my stuff and my mom and I aren't speaking, so I wanted to know if I was a butthole. Not the butthole. Jesus, your mom needs to grow the F up and your dad is kind of a coward for not doing this earlier. The mother is probably jealous rather than proud of her own daughter, because mother is probably not a gifted person. Agreed. Not the butthole. This was my thought, that it was never about the sister but about the mom being jealous and wanting to hold her daughter back. Nah, I believe it was about mom playing favorites because I was given the same opportunity to skip a grade and my mom declined because she didn't want my brother to feel bad or me graduating close to him. My younger sister skipped a grade and I was happy because it meant I got to see her more at school. How could this hurt my feelings that someone you love is doing good? Did the mom ask the siblings if they would actually be hurt, or it's just an excuse? My school wanted me to skip a year and my mom said no because socially it's not the right thing for kids. Sure, it's fine when you're 5, but a year can be significant in terms of social development and kids should be with kids of their own age/stage. I've never felt resentment for that. I was given extension programs and was pushed by teachers to do additional self-directed learning. Not the butthole, by the way. Sounds like the reasoning behind your mom holding you back was wrong and she wasn't actually thinking of you. My school talked my parents out of me skipping a grade with the same logic. It was not the correct decision. I think it's also subjective for each kid and family to work out. My school recommended having me take a remedial course, pre-first after kindergarten, so I could physically develop more, because I was, and still am, short AF. They did it, and surprise surprise, I always led the curve in tests. Not the butthole, and ops mom needs therapy. I never knew pre-first was a thing until 2 days ago when my fiancé's mom told me fiancé had been in it. Literally, the same scenario. He was the smallest kid and the school wanted him to physically develop more. He too always led the curve. They did this to my husband. Academically gifted, but he had a speech impediment due to a cleft palate and was physically small. Held him back a year and he ended up giving up on school by high school because he found it so boring. It didn't help that the school was a podunk religious school in rural Pennsylvania and was already teaching well below the national average for that grade level. Think creationism in science class. Effectively held a gifted child back more than 1 grade, more like 2, because of a speech impediment that went away after surgery. He's never forgiven his parents. This doesn't make sense to me. There's always going to be a smallest kid, somebody has to be the smallest in the class. I skipped and then led the curve in the higher grade. I can't imagine how bored I would have been if my parents hadn't allowed the skip. TBH, 1 year isn't much of a big deal. The work level is about the same and the range of maturity/ability in a year group is huge. September-born kids are almost a year older than kids born in August but are in the same classes. At some ages girls seem to be much more mature in learning style than boys, so that's a factor. Plus natural variations in aptitude and abilities is bigger than a 1-year age gap once you're older than say 5. I was accelerated 1 year and performed very well for that year, which messed me up socially a bit but didn't really challenge me anymore because the work was a tiny amount harder and the average ability of the kids was about the same. I was still very bored. Personally, I only see the point of accelerating someone if they are so smart that they absolutely need to be accelerated by like 5 years or more, or they'll go out of their damn minds. 1 year is in my opinion the worst of both worlds, socially worse and you're still bored. I'd prefer to see more support in schools for gifted kids, who could be kept in their own age group but given challenging projects to work on instead of some of the classes where they're really ahead. Social skills lessons wouldn't go amiss for some of the gifted kids/former gifted kids I know/knew as well. Op had the option to go a whole different school where there are kids just like him. So the social thing wouldn't even have mattered. I wouldn't have liked my mom very much either if she withheld such potential growth from me. Not the butthole. Yes, exactly, that would have been a much better solution. Bright kids need extending and challenging where they get bored and act out or get lazy. The social thing wouldn't have mattered because original poster wouldn't have skipped a grade. I think I was pretty bright in grade school, but I got no extra attention, or work too challenging. I do remember being bored often and I defaulted to being a great talker. My report cards reflect this: too much talking, not enough attention to work. I did well enough to pass, and some topics that interested me I did better, but no one around me cared, so neither did I. Another thing that's not right for kids is holding them in an unchallenging environment. That's fully setting them up to fail later when it doesn't come naturally anymore. Agree, bright kids need to be pushed. In my case, the school said she's finishing the work too quickly, we want to move her up, and she argued for lateral extension, not upwards extending. She helped set up a program for gifted kids, and so I learned Japanese, German, did some cool geometry, 3D paper model building and other fun learning things. Wrote a magazine. 100%, this screwed me over as a child, in my 30s now. I found that everything came easy to me, and once things got more advanced, I did not know how to study and fell pretty far behind and ended up dropping out of university. Children should always feel challenged at school. That's how you get straight A students in high school, who struggle with higher education because they didn't learn to study. That happened to me. I got so used to coasting and needing to put in negligible effort, it hit me hard at university. I still got a degree, but not the grade I should have had. Agree with this. Skipping a grade can be really problematic. A school for gifted children would have been the solution though, or some accelerator program, so absolutely not the butthole. Parents need to show their kids equal love and boundaries, but treat them according to who they are, and that can mean different schools, different hobbies. As someone who skipped kindergarten, your mom was correct. Academically there is no issue with skipping a grade, but school is about more than just academics. If you're athletic, then you are usually competing against people 1 or 2 years older than you, which puts you at a disadvantage. Socially there are also issues that arise when you are a year younger than your peers. And it's all for what? So you can enter the workforce a year earlier? It doesn't mean you get to retire a year earlier. This would make sense, except that the mother's reason for not skipping a grade or doing any of the other enrichment activities that the school suggested was not for her younger daughter's social development. It was to not hurt her older daughter's feelings, whatever that means. I don't understand how it's a valid excuse at all. It sounds like a thin disguise for favoritism. Also, I skipped kindergarten, and then went to a gifted program at age 12, so long story short, I ended up going to college when I was 15. Socially I certainly struggled a lot in high school, but caught up in college. Contrary to popular media, not all gifted kids are actually loner weirdos. I cannot agree with your assessment. First of all, original poster could have gone to a school for gifted kids, so a school full of kids her own age who would understand her perfectly. She wouldn't be competing against anyone older than she would. Second of all, it's not about entering the workforce, It's about developing your intelligence and potential instead of wasting away in a classroom where you're constantly bored and disheartened because you're too smart for other kids and maybe even bullied by them for being a know-it-all. That is something that can stunt your social and personal growth. Yeah, the social problems are going to be the same, because of the resentment bright kids get from their peers. If they get placed with peers who are also bright, that can help a lot. Which is why I'm dead set against this new trend in NYC that the mayor wants to do away with special schools and gifted programs. There are only a handful of schools for very smart kids and he wants to reduce them to ordinary high school. Rumor has it that it's because his son couldn't get into the specialized school of his choice. Used to be we'd celebrate high intelligence, now our society wants to reduce those people to ordinary. Very smart kids need these schools and challenges. I can't imagine how they'd be if they don't have such schools. I remember a girl at my high school skipped a year, and ended up going to university a year early, so she'd just turned 17. Academically she was fine, but she missed out on so much social exposure because she was underage. She couldn't drink and first year had a lot of events at bars etc. Probably not how it should be, but it was. Mom was a teacher who'd seen kids get left behind socially because they'd been put ahead academically. I have seen some harm done with skipping. My dad only skipped 1 grade and it affected him poorly, but my wife skipped 3 and that is just wild. There goes any denial if she ever finds this account, but luckily, I think I've only said nice things about her, but that's why the school offered info on gifted programs so original poster could be with age peers and still be challenged. If I'd had access to such a program, it would have been amazing. I mean, by the time she was going into high school, her mom should have asked her for her opinion. Back in KG? Sure. Skipping 1 grade isn't that big of a deal. But they could have put her into a different school where they could have helped her. I don't think skipping 1 grade, especially KG, would have affected her much. I think that it's more of an issue for older kids, like you mentioned in your comment. Agreed. I was offered a chance to skip a grade, but my parents refused because I was already the youngest in my grade. My birthday is 3 days before the cutoff, and it would mean I'd be in class with people up to almost 2 years older than me. I happily agreed because I wanted to stay with my friends, but never really appreciated it until I took some college classes at 16 years old. Being partnered with students up to 5 years older than me really drove home how enormous the difference in age can be when you're a teenager. My older brother's feelings never once came into play. I think skipping a grade is generally a bad idea because of the reason you mention. Socially and physically being younger than your peers puts you at a disadvantage. You're probably better off being the smartest kid or among the smartest in your grade rather than skipping a grade and just above average. But original poster still had other options, like a gifted program, which is what her mom should have chosen for her. I'm just going to say, all my life I've hated people my own age. It's not an important thing to state, I just wanted to state it. You wouldn't have your sister resenting you either. Like, how can parents do this? Talk about destroying family dynamics. You don't play favorites or try and be equal or whatever. You just treat them like the people they are, and if one is particularly academic, then they're academic. So pursue that. Not the butthole. Your mother shouldn't hold you back just because your sister is not as smart as you are. If anything, she should have been supportive of your gifts and let you join advanced programs. That way your sister who isn't as smart might have felt the need to be like you and study more. If anything, she should have been supportive of your gifts and let you join advanced programs. That way your sister who isn't as smart might have felt the need to be like you and study more. Considering the sister has learning disabilities, that would be equally as crafty to do to her kids. Mom needed to find ways to adequately support the individual needs of both her children, not hold one back or put one up on a pedestal. It is the parent's duty to help a child fulfill their full potential, whatever it is. The mother certainly didn't do that for original poster. She probably is also doing similar to the older one too, but in a different manner. She's actually holding the older back because she is babying her instead of pushing her. I had a parent do this to me. And now my sister gets angry when I achieve something she doesn't. Not fair. Get awards when she doesn't. Not fair. Travel to places she doesn't. Not fair. And earn more than her. Not fair. Forcing both to the same mold creates unhealthy competition. Mom needed to find ways to adequately support the individual needs of both her children, not hold one back or put one up on a pedestal. Just asking, how should mom have done this? I have no clue as to how the money got there. Should have done this. Sounds like she was in between a rock and a hard place. Support the needs of her oldest daughter by providing appropriate support and help for her disability. Support the youngest daughter by letting her join the gifted class. You don't need to give each child the same exact crap. I have a nephew who was held back because he didn't meet the milestones needed to go to the next grade. He has a younger brother who was supposed to move on but was held back because his parents didn't want them to be in the same grade so that the older brother didn't feel bad. It's the reversed version of Op's situation. What do you think about that? The younger brother definitely should not have been held back. I wouldn't be surprised if younger brother ends up resenting older brother in that situation, even though he was a child and it's not really his fault either, versus the parents. Also, find something older sis is good at and enjoys and support that. My brothers were all in sports and my parents went to all their meets, but I wasn't gifted athletically. I didn't feel left out or less than them, because my parents supported and encouraged me when I wanted to take horse riding lessons and went to all of my shows. It's important for kids to learn that just because someone has more talent in a specific area, doesn't mean they're better or more important than someone who doesn't. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube and share them with your friends. We welcome your comments below. Press to start another of our videos.